Socratic. Socratic philosophy, founded on the teachings of Socrates, represents a turning point in ancient Greek thought. While it seems self-evident today to question human ethics and moral reasoning, this was revolutionary in Socrates' era, when most thinkers speculated about nature and the cosmos. Socrates redirected philosophy toward the examined life, seeking moral truth through dialogue and introspection. Using the Socratic method, a disciplined form of questioning, he challenged assumptions and exposed contradictions, teaching that virtue and knowledge are inseparable. To know the good is to do the good. His defiance of Athenian conventions led to his trial and execution in 399 BCE for impiety and corrupting the youth. Yet his influence endured through his student Plato, who recorded his ideas and developed his own theory of forms. Plato then taught Aristotle, forming an unbroken chain of inquiry that shaped Western philosophy's moral, logical, and intellectual foundations. Aristotelian. Aristotle, a student of Plato and intellectual heir to the Socratic tradition, transformed philosophy from abstract idealism into a systematic study of logic, ethics, politics, and the natural world. While Plato emphasized transcendent forms, Aristotle grounded truth in empirical observation and rational analysis of the physical world. He developed the first formal system of logic and sought to explain reality through causes and purposes, teleology. For Aristotle, human happiness, eudaimonia, was achieved through virtue, the balance between extremes known as the golden mean. His works on biology, metaphysics, rhetoric, and ethics became cornerstones of Western learning. Unlike Socrates' focus on introspection, Aristotle viewed knowledge as a structured pursuit that could classify, define, and understand all aspects of nature and human life. His comprehensive approach laid the foundation for science, logic, and ethics, influencing thinkers from medieval scholastics to Enlightenment empiricists, ensuring that philosophy became both rational and methodical. Scholasticism. Scholasticism arose in medieval Europe as a grand effort to unite Christian theology with Aristotelian philosophy. Building upon Aristotle's logical methods, medieval thinkers sought to demonstrate that faith and reason could coexist in harmony. Philosophers such as Thomas Aquinas, Anselm of Canterbury, and Duns Scotus used precise argumentation and dialectical reasoning to explore the relationship between God, truth, and human understanding. Their guiding conviction was that rational inquiry could deepen, rather than threaten, religious faith. Within Europe's growing universities, scholastic debate became the defining method of intellectual training, emphasizing careful analysis and logical clarity. The movement reached its height with Aquinas' Summa Theologica, which presented reasoned proofs for God's existence and moral order. By treating theology as a disciplined science, scholasticism preserved classical knowledge and established a foundation of systematic reasoning that prepared the way for the Renaissance and the later Enlightenment's confidence in structured rational inquiry. Rationalism. Rationalism represents the early modern quest to understand the nature and limits of human knowledge, blending the insights of rationalism and empiricism. Following the scholastic tradition's emphasis on reason, thinkers like René Descartes, Baruch Spinoza, and Gottfried Leibniz argued that truth originates in rational thought and innate ideas. In contrast, John Locke, George Berkeley, and David Hume maintained that knowledge arises from sensory experience, the mind as a tabula rasa, a blank slate shaped by perception. This intellectual tension between reason and experience defined early modern philosophy, ultimately leading to Immanuel Kant's synthesis. The mind structures experience through rational categories. Kant's resolution bridged skepticism and certainty, forming the basis for modern epistemology. Epistemism, as this unified pursuit of knowledge, shifted philosophy toward critical analysis, laying the groundwork for the scientific method, Enlightenment reasoning, and the modern understanding that truth emerges through the interplay of logic and observation. Enlightenment. Enlightenment philosophy built upon the rational and empirical advances of the early modern era, turning them toward questions of human progress, liberty, and reason. Thinkers across Europe believed that through critical inquiry and scientific understanding, humanity could overcome ignorance, superstition, and tyranny. Philosophers such as Voltaire, John Locke, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Immanuel Kant, and David Hume championed individual rights, secular governance, and the pursuit of knowledge free from dogma. The Enlightenment emphasized that reason and evidence, not tradition or authority, should guide moral and political life. This spirit of inquiry inspired revolutions in America and France, reshaping views of democracy, education, and human dignity. The movement's central faith in rational progress gave birth to modern science, liberalism, and constitutional thought, while also sparking debates on equality, religion, and the limits of reason itself. Enlightenment philosophy established the intellectual foundation of the modern Western world. Marxism. Marxism, developed by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, transformed philosophy by grounding human thought and history in material reality rather than abstract ideals. Where earlier philosophers believed progress came through reason or moral enlightenment, Marx argued that society is shaped by its economic structure, the way labor and production are organized. History, he claimed, unfolds through class struggle, as oppressed groups challenge those who control the means of production. In capitalist societies, the bourgeoisie, owners, exploit the proletariat, workers, leading to alienation, where human labor becomes a commodity and individuals are estranged from their creative essence. Marx envisioned the eventual overthrow of this system through collective action, resulting in a classless, communist society built on shared ownership and cooperation. More than an economic theory, Marxism is a philosophy of emancipation, merging analysis with activism. Its influence reshaped political theory, sociology, and art, establishing a lasting critique of inequality, exploitation, and the pursuit of human freedom. Existentialism. Existentialism arose from the crises of modernity and the collapse of traditional moral frameworks, with Friedrich Nietzsche standing as one of its most defining figures. Nietzsche declared the death of God, not as atheism alone, but as a recognition that Western morality had lost its grounding. He challenged humanity to confront the void left behind and to create new values through strength, creativity, and self-overcoming, the ideal of the Übermensch, Overman. Building on Nietzsche's call for individual transformation, later thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir, and Albert Camus explored freedom, authenticity, and moral responsibility in an absurd world. Existentialism rejects rigid systems and insists that meaning must be forged personally through action and choice. In a universe without predetermined essence, humans become the authors of their own destiny. Nietzsche's influence made existentialism not merely a philosophy of despair, but a bold affirmation of life, creativity, and the power of becoming. Critical theory. Critical theory emerged in the early 20th century from the Frankfurt School, a group of German philosophers and social theorists, including Max Horkheimer, Theodor Adorno, Herbert Marcuse, and later Jürgen Habermas. Deeply influenced by Marxism, psychoanalysis, and existentialism, they sought to understand how culture, ideology, and technology maintain systems of domination even within democratic societies. Critical theory argued that traditional philosophy had too often explained the world instead of critiquing and transforming it. By analyzing mass media, consumerism, and cultural production, these thinkers exposed how modern capitalism shapes consciousness and limits genuine freedom. Their goal was human emancipation, to uncover the subtle mechanisms that reproduce inequality and conformity. Over time, critical theory expanded into fields such as feminism, post-colonialism, and cultural studies, influencing how power, identity, and discourse are understood today. At its heart, it remains a philosophy of social critique and transformation, calling for a more just, self-aware, and liberated society.